Today we're looking at In a Sentimental Mood by Duke Ellington, and this is a tune that a lot of people play, and it's a very popular jazz standard by, of course, by Duke Ellington. And we're gonna learn the tune, then we're gonna take a look at some variations on the chords that people tend to do when they play this tune, and even look at a different version of the tune and some stuff, reharm ideas, I guess, that Barry Galbraith did on this tune. So some stuff that we're gonna look at. So yeah, let's get started, shall we? So let's play along with the iReal Pro here. I had the iReal Pro setting to Jazz Ballad Double Time Feel. So the second time, after the first chorus or the first time through, it goes into double time, which is something they often do when they play ballads. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on. So I was playing the melody in the octave it's written in the real book. I'm looking at the new real book. It's a little bit too high up here, I think. But the B section, I went up an octave. So this is always something you have to decide as a guitar player, which octave to play. So we're not playing, when we're looking at a lead sheet like this, we're not playing in the correct octave, right? We're reading it an octave wrong. But sometimes I find that it sounds better down lower, actually. So this tune has what's called a line cliche. Minor to minor major 7, minor 7, minor 6. So the one voice is going down. It's called a line cliche, right? There are many variations on, or many different line cliches. It could be the fifth going up, like in James Bond. So those are both examples of line cliches. And when you have a line cliche, you have to be a little bit careful, in my opinion. So it's a little bit strange right off the bat. The melody is landing on the 11th of the minor chord. So you can play like that. But it's a little bit awkward. But you can do it. I like to do this. I play the D minor triad like that. Here you're on the 9th. It's also difficult. You could play the G minor triad there. It's a little bit, yeah, the thing is you don't have to play everything, right? You can leave things open. So here, yeah, I could play just that note maybe. If there's a comping instrument, they're gonna fill in the blanks and play the other harmonies. But also, it's nice to leave things open. People still hear, you know what I mean? The harmony, even though if you're not playing everything. And there was this video where Brad Meldo is guest on Rick Beato, and he says, what is like I'm paraphrasing, but something like, what is the absolute minimum of notes that I need here?
A great Johnny Mandel tune, Where Do You Start? So Larry's down here, we're in the key of D flat. And I may just really I think it's a good exercise when I occasionally teach. I try to tell pianists, can you find me the 2 notes that you need to tell the story of this tune and the harmony? So here we're just on a triad. Well, first I'll play the first 4 phrases here in context. So, very simple.
Instead of playing these big chords, you leave it open. And here, I was playing this. No third. You still hear that minor sound, even though I'm not playing the third, you know what I mean? A lot of people miss that it's a G at the end of the melody. The second time it's an F. But the first time it's actually the 9th, and the chord is an F6-9. So these extensions is goes to show how ahead of his time Duke Ellington was. In the new real book, there are Bill Evans changes written in above the regular changes, and I'm not sure which recording exactly they're taking that from, because I think Bill Evans recorded this tune on several occasions. But there it says D minor, major 9 to A altered, sharp 5. So that's another thing you could do. Then there could be an E7 here. So if you find it difficult to play that chord under the first, a couple of ways you can, get around that problem is to don't play the note. Just and let the audience imagine that note and leave it. Now there's plenty of that phrase you could play an octave higher. If you want to be really fancy, you can use a freeze pedal, right? So a lot of people do this. D minor, D minor 7, D minor 6, G minor major 7, D minor, B flat major 7, A minor, D7. So could even be a D minor, B minor 7 flat 5, and then B flat major 7. Those are the chords that apparently that Bill Evans played. I've often seen B flat 7, like a dominant chord flat 5. But it clashes a little bit with that A in the melody, but for blowing, I hear people play that all the time. So, and then into then I'm just playing a B flat minor, and then the melody. Here it says in the real book D flat over F, so you can play this. The Steely Dan chord. Then E13. These are the Bill Evans chords. Here you can do Barry Harris. Diminished, B flat minor. Diminished, B flat minor. G minor 11. And what people like to do here is this. So I went to this chord. So what I'm thinking is B minor 7 flat 5 to B flat minor 6 to A minor to A flat dominant flat 5. So if I have a D minor, which is the chord that's supposed to be there, if I play B on the bottom, I get a B minor 7 flat 5. This is a very common substitution, and it's also the same chord because a D minor 6 and B minor 7 flat 5 share the same notes. And then you just go down chromatically. But if I have the G on the melody on the top, and I'm thinking that chord, I play this. It's the Steely Dan chord again. This is like Kurt Rosenwinkel sounding voicings. You could even stretch out that harmony even more to like B altered, to E altered, A altered, D altered. So E. But I think somebody did that in some recording, but I'm not sure which recording. I can't remember. If you know where that reharmonization appears on what recording, let us know. There's always somebody who knows these things, so comment below. But you have to be a little bit careful. So this substitution you could definitely throw in if you're jamming on this tune, and people, if you're playing with, you know, seasoned jazz musicians, they will be like, oh yeah, or they will hear it and pick up on it. But if you're playing like on a gig, maybe you should decide beforehand, like when you're rehearsing, that yeah, we're gonna play those changes, because not everybody is aware of that little reharm. But these, that's a little bit more, that's gonna surprise people a little bit more, so that you definitely have to talk about before. And you might think that you're actually ruining the tune, you know. You have to remember also how people perceive music. If you play this and then it comes back, the second time it's like, okay, now people are hearing it and know what it sounds like. The third time this comes around, people expect that, and if you play that, it's gonna be, oh, you know, it's gonna be a surprise, but it's a pleasant surprise, hopefully. So that's something to think about, that a good reharm is something that adds an element of surprise, but in a positive way. You don't want to ruin everything with too much strangeness, you know. There is a very famous recording of this tune by Duke Ellington and John Coltrane from a record where they played together. And there, the vibe is completely different than how you normally hear this tune. They're playing it in B flat minor, and they play something like this. So that's a must recording to listen to. So fantastic recording. Just the mood is just very, very mysterious, and yeah, it's one of my favorite recordings of, definitely my favorite recording of this tune. So before we look at Barry Galbraith, some of the stuff that he's doing on this tune, let's just talk about how to play over a ballad. So first off, when you have this line cliche, as I said, you have to be a little bit careful. If you play that all the time, the soloist might feel a little bit, what's the word, constrained? That you have to play those notes. So it's better to leave it open and imply that somehow, but without playing like... I mean, there are ways that you can outline those harmonies. But again, like, you might feel a little bit constrained and trapped in that kind of line cliche if it's too obvious. So when you're practicing with your iReal Pro, it's better to just remove the piano, at least after a while when you get comfortable with the tune, because then it's more open. Right? So when you play a ballad, you want to play kind of out of time. Sometimes. So now I'm playing minor 6. If the piano player were playing these line cliches, that might clash, right? Minor 6. Kind of like Django Reinhardt. But you can also play in time. You can kind of exaggerate. Now I'm thinking double time. And maybe not swing. It's even. Or exaggerated swing. Playing the line cliche. And the blues. So now the swing is gonna go into double time because I have it set to double time ballad. Sorry, a little bit out of tune. That we have like some changing weather over here. When you're playing a ballad, when you go into double time, that's a very common thing to do. It is also something that beginner jazz players tend to do a little bit too much. So you have to be a little bit careful there as well. If the soloist is really into something and expressing him or herself in a kind of loose way without a specific time feel, then you might ruin everything by going into double time. So it's not something that you have to do. The best ballad recordings, they don't do that, but sometimes you can do that, and it can even be all the time. I think the Bill Evans recordings are a little bit like that. You don't have to play this slow. You can play it as a double time feel throughout. It takes a little bit of finesse, but you can do it. Okay, so let's look at some Barry Galbraith ideas for this tune, because I have made a video way back where I played his arrangement of this tune. So these books by Barry Galbraith, the reharm books, don't think they're in print, or it's difficult to find, but you can find PDFs of them. Here he does this. That's the way to get around that problem, right? You change the chord. So instead of playing G minor, you play B major 7. It could even be changing the melody notes, right? So let's say you, from the beginning, you change that note to an A, then it works better, right? But obviously you're changing the melody, so E flat 7, A flat major 9, A 7, D minor 11, B flat major 7. Then he does this. It's ahead of his time, right? This is Kurt Rosenwinkel territory. Radiohead harmony. So the third goes up. Melody note stays the same. So you get B flat major 7, B7, and he plays this D, so it's a sharp 9 chord, and then C6. Here he does this. This is a very common thing. So there's a B flat in the melody, and then G minor 7, a 2-5. When you have the third of that 2 chord in the melody, it's very common to go up a half step and do a chromatic 2-5. So here he plays G13. So another very common thing to do is when you have a D minor, you substitute it for a G7 of some kind, like a G13. Those chords are kind of related. Then he just goes down chromatically with it. So the top note stays. So 13 flat 9 to F13 9 to a B flat 13. Then what he does a lot of times, he'll just abandon the melody and play something else, because you've already kind of established the melody, right? Again, the half step up, D flat 13, C 13. major 7 has nothing to do with the chords there. He just added in his own. D minor 11, G13, C minor 7, B, steely Dan. There's those things again. I really like that. I'm gonna take that. It fits perfectly there. I'm gonna use that every time I play this tune from now on. Of course, what people do today, people like Kurt Rosenwinkel and people like that, they play whatever. They'll change completely the chord, and surprisingly, you don't even notice it. I remember listening to Kurt Rosenwinkel play Darn That Dream, and he just plays like major 7 flat 5 chords. Or something like that. He just plays like major 7 flat 5 chords somehow. The idea is that if you have a sound that you like, you can kind of play the melody note and play that chord under it. It doesn't really matter what it is. You have to just develop this ability to do that, I guess. Remember seeing actually Chris Potter do that on Nardis. He was playing chords that had nothing to do with the harmony of the tune. He was just playing sounds, but it sounded great if you know what you're doing. So you could play pretty much any note under the melody, and if the voice leading is strong, it's going to sound good. But of course, you can't just do that when you're jamming with people. You have to either rearrange the tune, or if you're playing by yourself. Okay, so that was some stuff on In a Sentimental Mood. As always, I want to thank you for your time and attention, and I shall see you next time.